Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming to or attending this year's AIA Home Store with North Arrow. And we'll go ahead and thank our sponsors. This will be the Lean On Me house with North Arrow. I want to thank you to Dalgleish Construction Company and also Western Window Systems. So everybody, we will be reviewing the Lean On Me house today with North Arrow Studio with, and here with us is Francisco Arredondo. He's the architect behind the Lean On Me house. He's been practicing here in Austin for 25 years. He's the founder and principal of North Arrow Studio, which is a boutique firm with a broad range of interests. The firm was established in 2011 and is known for designing beautiful residential spaces. They've also designed some of Austin's most iconic restaurants and bars. Francisco, can you tell us a little more about your firm and the kind of work y'all do?
Yes. Hello, Kelly. Hello, everybody. Really, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity and want to let you guys know that we are very excited, thrilled to be part of this year's AIA Austin home tour. Guys, go visit the houses, go to the virtual tours. They're a lot of fun. There's a lot of different things you can do online through the AIA website. Well, let me start just by telling you a little bit about myself. I was born in Texas, raised in Mexico, and I was educated in the field of architecture here at the University of Texas at Austin. I have lived in this town now for, I think it's close to 30 years, and I consider Austin my home. Then a little bit about my practice. North Arrow Studio. I'm the principal of a boutique architectural practice here in Austin. Our team is formed by a group of extremely talented individuals with diverse backgrounds and interests. An amazing group of people that all share the belief that effective design is achieved through collaboration, hard work, and respect. At this point, I'm going to share my screen. We have the rest of the presentation will be kind of in a little video animation format.
Really quick, just before you get started, I want to tell everybody, please ask questions during the presentation. There's a Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom, and there's a chat box as well, but please feel free to ask any and all questions in that Q&A box, and I will be the one who then asks those questions to Francisco, and we'll get you some answers. Thanks, everybody. Go ahead, Francisco.
Oh, actually, hold on. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Buckle up, guys. So I'll tell you a little bit more about our office. Our work is rooted in the modernist tradition of architecture. A lot of our houses share some of the ideas of modern architecture, just simple, clean lines, timeless building. We like kind of materials that can stand the test of time, like brick and stone. We use a lot of glass too. So we love modern architecture, but we also love doing things that we haven't done before and being surprised along the way. And that is some of what we'll show you in the next couple of images that are a little bit different than kind of what we do most of the time. The common thread with our projects are thoughtful siting, respect for the landscape, awareness of light, and a deep appreciation for materiality. All within the context of program and budget. More than anything, our practice is about listening, and we strive to find deeper meaning behind the client's desires and goals. And we always listen to the site, and that is going to be a big part of today's presentation. By the way, this is our Annie house, very different than what we do every day. I personally love it, but it is it's a lot of fun, very unique, and something a little bit different. Here's Container Bar, a lot of people. If you like hanging out the weekends, you've probably seen this project on Rainy Street. This is one of ours as well. And now our presentation. So let me just tell you a little bit about the format of the presentation and what we will be showing you here. The presentation is gonna focus on 4 main points that help guide the design. That is development regulations, client requirements, site design, and what we call room for growth. In this presentation, we're going to show you an animation of our 3D model of the house. We'll show you progress images, photographs that we took during construction, and we will also show you kind of what the house looks at the end. Just keep in mind that all these are photographs that we've been taking. We don't have professional photographs quite yet. And another thing, please, to keep in mind is that this is a presentation that we have practiced, but it is not scripted. Those are kind of the main parts of the presentation. And then if you have questions, you can ask them now. And of course, there'll be a little bit of time at the end for more questions. A little bit about the Lean On Me residence. The house is located in the Barton Hill Nature Preserve. This project is a site-specific design where the home follows the shape of the land. The house is organized in 2 volumes, one leaning on top of the other. And now let's get started. So one of the first things that we do as part of starting work on a project is analyze the properties, the specific characteristics of the site, if you will, and compare that against our client's program design brief, is what we call it at the office, and goals. In this particular case, our clients, their parameters in very general terms, they wanted a 3,000 square foot house with 3 bedrooms and a den. And they wanted to be able to have outdoor spaces that they could use and enjoy, to spend a lot of time outdoors, working on different projects around the house, like gardening is one of them. And in addition to that, another one of their big interests is around cooking and culinary endeavors, if you will. So a big functional kitchen was very important for them. They entertain people now and then. That was very important. And the kitchen was a big part of it. So the site itself, you can see here is it has kind of an odd shape to it. It's not a typical rectangle that we usually encounter, especially kind of in an urban setting, like in Central Austin. But it is a large lot. the biggest kind of site characteristic in this case really was the topography. It's a very steep site, and it's not just steep in one direction. It has hills and it has valleys that we have to take into account. And then in addition to that, there's also the specific development restrictions that come with any lot. We're showing here in yellow property setbacks, 25 feet on the front, 5 on the sides, and another 25 in the back, which this being a big lot, that was not an issue as to what we could do, at least not based on just the setbacks. This one was a little bit more, was significantly more important. Natural drainage, the shape, you know, this particular lot happens to share the natural, share space with the natural drainage of the this particular subdivision development itself. So when it rains, this kind of becomes a river. A lot of water goes through here. And we certainly do not want to interrupt the flow of the natural drainage. The site itself came with, because of this, the site came with a very large drainage easement. This section of the property was not necessarily unbuilt. Well, you couldn't build on that, on this particular part of the site because of the drainage easement. In addition to that, another major consideration on this site, mainly because now you'll see here in a minute, this is a lot of square footage that once you add it all up, takes a lot of space. We needed a place for location for a septic field. And that also required kind of a relatively flat area, even in a property like this. Once you add up all these site restrictions, this is what we get. The areas in yellow are the parts where we cannot build, and we are left with these two sections. So what at first glance looks like a very large lot with a lot of potential and opportunities as to the build location, it gets reduced significantly once we take all these site conditions into consideration. And of course, besides that, there's other things that we want to take into account, like orientation, cardinal orientation, and views. In this case, we had great views of the nature preserve facing west. So that's kind of what we're showing there. And you know, once we kind of reviewed all that information, in that section where we could build, we kind of identified areas that have a low slope. By no means flat, but they were just not as steep as the rest of the property. So now I'm just going to show you some images of the site. So here's a photograph from the street. Here's a photograph from the street as well, looking straight at the site of the property. This is a good photograph just because here you can see the grade difference, which we haven't talked about this yet, the grade difference between the street and really the first spot where you can build, which is kind of at the top of that mound. The height difference between the street and the top of that mound is about 15 feet. So what is going to be one of the challenges? It's going to be very difficult to get a vehicle out there. And part of the design guidelines for this community is that you need to have a 2-car garage, and it cannot. The other condition is that it cannot face the street. That just shows the culverts, so you get an idea of what's the volume of water that really kind of goes through there through the property on a rainy day. And then just some photographs of the site. When it comes to vegetation, what we have here is just a lot of kind of small bushes and cedar trees. We also noticed that they were relatively all these trees and plants were relatively small in size, and there's a lot of rock there. So that became another kind of point of review during our design, because it was the site was kind of telling us that there might be a lot of rock here. And when it comes to a property that has a lot of topography and you want to develop it and you want to build on it, one of the kind of classic strategies of development is cut and fill. You cut a little bit of land and then you add a little bit of grade on the other side. In this particular case, if we ended up with a lot of rock, that means that the digging or the cutting would be more expensive than typical.
Hey, Francisco,
Yes.
we have a question. Which firm helped you determine the drainage requirements?
We didn't have to work with any drainage requirements because basically all we had to do is stay outside of the drainage easement. So by looking at the topography and by taking into account the drainage easement, that kind of let us know what kind of section of the property we just couldn't build on at all. And then the rest, when it comes to the actual building itself, we figure out the drainage within the section of the property that we were actually working on. We figured that in-house and with help of the contractor as well.
Okay, thank you. I have one more actually.
Yeah.
Did you use GIS to get this topo, or how did you get that?
We got a topo survey. So just your typical topo survey is what we used, and then from the topo survey we develop a 3D model from just the survey that you get from any kind of surveying company. We always take that information with a grain of salt, meaning that it's there's a lot of information that we get out of there, but there's always going to be some fine tuning that will take place during construction in case that topography is not exactly as depicted on a survey, which can happen.
Awesome, thank you.
Does that answer the question?
I think so, thank you.
Okay. So here we go. Here's the site, right? The two sections where we identified as kind of potential building sites. This shows what we're calling for the purpose of this webinar, calling this section of the foundation the plinth. Here we're drawing in a very diagrammatic way, but when you see pictures of the house, you can see it's a little bit more involved in this. But this is kind of section number one, which basically our design approach here is let's just kind of try to stay as close to the grade as possible. And if we're going to do any cut and fill, let's keep that to a minimum. And for us, that meant around 4 feet. That way we don't have to excavate too much. That way we don't have to fill too much. Even the section here that looks like it's significantly out of grade, that's where we have the swimming pool. So there's really no concrete there. It's the swimming pool itself. That's a great location for the swimming pool because in that particular case, we don't have to dig for the swimming pool. Most of it can be built above the topography. Unfortunately, that footprint right there is not enough for our client's needs, which was a 3-bedroom, 3,000 square foot house. So we also had to take a look at that little triangle, the yellow triangle that you saw a minute ago, and we had to consider that as a secondary building site. So what we ended up doing there is instead of having just slab on grade foundation. We went with a slightly different foundation strategy over here, which is just two concrete beams, and then the rest of the house would rest on top of that. We call this general strategy of the design just kind of a soft landing, where we are trying to, as much as possible, just kind of drape the floor plan, the layout of the house on the topography, so we're not kind of disturbing the land too much, which is just something we don't like to do, and it also, in this particular case, can turn into additional costs for the client. And then, of course, the driveway, we talked about this a little bit in the image before. So huge, great difference between the street and the building site. They want a 2-car garage. We need to have a 2-car garage, cannot face the street. 15 feet, great difference. So, and there's very specific slope requirements for a driveway. The strategy for this is we needed to have the longest driveway possible to fit the rise and run requirement. So that in itself kind of developed into an S-shaped driveway that is just kind of a big part of what you see from the street. Okay, so we just have some images of site clearing and the forming of the foundation. It was a complex foundation. Besides just the elevation, we had a kind of coping concrete detail in some spots that, you know, it was complex to execute, but we had great partners on this project. I'll just take a minute to thank the construction team. That is Foresight Construction, AJ Smith and Jason McGee. You can see him over there. And they did a great job through the project. Frankly, you know, as a lot of you might know, if you are in the architecture field, architecture is a team sport, and it needs a group of people that have shared goals, similar values, and are great kind of with communication and working together. And that was the case with our construction team and the clients. The clients were very involved, of course, at the design, during the design phase, but as well during construction. There's always a lot of decisions that need to be made along the way. And in my opinion, the best resolution to those decisions that need to happen during construction happen when you can have these 3 groups of professionals and the client kind of involved in those decisions. So yes, great job, Foresight Construction. Here's the foundation. It just shows the different levels and the coping detail that you'll see in a few other places when you see kind of more developed photographs. This just shows the foundation, and this particular image, we are looking at the kitchen in the background and living room and dining, and kind of a sunken living room and dining. It's not a swimming pool. And then the foundation beams. This is where the other part of the house will rest on. Again, just a very soft landing. And now we just have a few progress photographs that shows the living room again. That shows how the concrete beam would work. A few images of the progress of the construction. Living room again. Here you can see how it's taking shape. Also kind of on the other side of the living room, you have the swimming pool and the pool courtyard. we'll talk about this space here in a little bit. There's the swimming pool and pool courtyard. And then again, kind of have that kind of those spaces are taking shape now after, of course, everything evolves from this site strategy and foundation strategy. But it's not the only way you can go about building a house and thinking about the site or not thinking about the site. So we call our site strategy soft landing. I guess this is not one of our projects, by the way. I would call this flat earth, the flat earth approach to things. So just assume that the site is flat, and then you build your foundation from there. And there's a lot of buildings that kind of do something like that. We chose a different route. Not sure why I'm smiling on that one, but there we go. And then just a few images of the driveway. Just kind of this is kind of the beginning of that kind of construction exercise. Not an easy task by any means. And then there is close to the final product. I don't like talking about driveways too much, but this one was one for the books for sure. Okay. So now this is kind of a continuation of the site strategy. So the plinth becomes the plinth volume becomes the location for all our living spaces and the garage. And then from there, we bridge with the bedrooms that rest on the foundation, on the foundation beams along the back, and then bridges all the way to the living room. So that kind of shows kind of our site strategy. But of course, and then the location of the pool, which I mentioned a little bit, is it's next to the living room, but it's in a spot that is like furthest out of grade. We did that intentionally because that gives us the opportunity to just build the pool out of grade without having to dig into rocky terrain. We also pulled it away from the house a little bit so we can actually create a space between the living room and the pool, giving our clients yet another space, another opportunity to enjoy the outdoor spaces around the house. But then, of course, we have to figure out a way how to connect these two bars that form the house. And this is where the glass bridge comes into play. You saw a few images of it for photographs of it during kind of the construction section. So now you have living spaces on the bottom, bedrooms on the top, and then the circulation bridge.
I was just going to say, this is a beautiful presentation. Is that, was this all made from Revit, or what software did you produce those 3D models out of, or do you?
Yes, well, we started with SketchUp, and then our team, they ran it through Enscape for the presentation. So those were the two programs that we used for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying that. We worked really hard on this presentation. So now I'm just going to give you a quick tour of the house, so you can orient yourself when we're looking at the rest of the presentation. We've talked about some of these spaces already. So here we have the driveway. Entry door is right here. So you can arrive to the door from here. And then the living spaces are arranged in 2 different elevations. So kitchen is number 4 over here at the top, and it kind of overlooks the living space and the dining space. Our site strategy of draping the foundation over the topography gave us kind of those unique opportunities of, this is something that we try to do in most of our projects if we get a chance. We love open spaces. We love having kitchen, dining, all connected and sharing the same space. But we also believe they need to have kind of a home of themselves. So, changing floor elevations can be one way to achieve this. In this particular case, it was part of our site strategy, so that can happen naturally. We also can have this hallway over here on the side that becomes a bench for the dining room table. And then this is the 2-car garage over here. And so kitchen right there, and around the corner, you have the stairs that take you up to the bedrooms. This is that glass bridge. And besides being a bridge, it's also our client's music room. And they have the most amazing and adorable meditation room back here. It's all surrounded for glass, and even kind of has like a little glass underbelly here that maybe we'll show you in some photographs that are coming up. So this takes you up to the bedrooms. And then here you can see, again, those foundation beams. And then the second floor. The second floor, we have, just give me 1 second over here. So stairs to the second floor. And here we have the den. Bedroom 1, bedroom 2. Actually, I was wrong. This is how you get up, and this is how you get to the master suite over here. And then this is the master suite with the views over there. Of course, as we were developing the site strategy, we had a quick call with our clients to make sure that they like the steps, because we have a lot of different levels in this house. So every part of developing this design was just constant communication and conversations with our clients, informing them of the direction of the design and making sure they were kind of happy and with the decisions we were making, and we can kind of get their input at the right time during the process of developing the design. So that is, in general, the layout of the Lean On Me house. At some point during the process, we shared with our clients some renderings of what the house is going to look like. If everything goes according to plan, the house will look like this, and there's always the possibility that it can look better than this. But anyways, I really like this rendering. I think it's a beautiful rendering. And now we're gonna take a quick tour of just this, the model that we prepared for the presentation. It shows other sides of the house. So this is the side that is facing the neighbors, and here you can see the car garage kind of tucked around the corner, hidden by a sidewalk or an extension of the house. And then we have kind of smaller windows here along the bedrooms and bathrooms that are facing the neighbors. The house kind of opens up towards their yard. And now we're going to talk about the, I guess what we're calling room for growth. With most, or at least our residential work, we always try to have a conversation with our clients about what things they what are their goals, where they want to, what are they, what kind of features, what kind of things they want to have in the house. Some of them can be done during construction. Some of them don't need to be, this work doesn't need to be performed right away, but we want to plan for it and we want to think about it and incorporate those ideas as part of our design. So in this case, we had a number of different features that we, that the clients chose to kind of delay the implementation of that, but we still wanted to make sure that the house, the design of the house could take kind of that additional infrastructure at a later date. One of them is solar panels. That is a great idea. At this particular point, we wanted to, identify a location, talk to our contractor, and make sure there was at least the preliminary infrastructure to get to kind of connect the wiring from the location of the panels to the location of the actual batteries and equipment. So in this particular case, we have this kind of side that is kind of hidden from view from most places for the future location of solar panels. We also added parapet walls to the building to make sure that once the panels were there, they were not kind of visible from the majority of at least the spaces that our clients are kind of outdoor spaces that our clients are using most of the time. And just make sure that we had enough square footage for that. And it's also in the back of the house that is happens to be also shielded by the kind of angled shape of the kind of master suite. I jumped over here. Another one of those future.
Hey, Francisco.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to let you know, some people have said that your rendering was beautiful. And also we have a question of what are the dimensions of the first and second level floors, or maybe a roundabout square footage if that, if you know that better, but.
Well, I mean, dimensions is going to be a little bit, the spaces are not super big, but I would say that it's probably even, maybe the first level is about 1,500 square feet. And the second level is another 1,500 square feet. The actual dimensions of the rooms and these like, the general massing of it, I don't have that. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay, that's okay. I think that probably helps. They were probably just curious for a little bit of an idea of the square footage, probably.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So another one of these features is water collection, rainwater collection. Frankly, this is something that if you planned from the beginning of the design could easily be achieved. And it's an idea that could be implemented during construction, or it could happen later. As we were developing the design, we took that into consideration and designed a roof drainage strategy that would let us collect the water, rainwater, in one single spot for this kind of master suite section of the house. So the idea was collected in one spot, and not only that, figure out if we could collect it at the highest elevation on the property. If we can do something like that, that means we don't have to bring in additional equipment like a pump that will pump the water from the bottom to the top. This can all happen. The system is gravity fed, and it doesn't need to be anything super fancy for our clients that they like spending time around outside the house and working on different projects and working on some kind of landscaping projects as well as gardening. This is something that could be easily be implemented at any spot, and it's nothing it's not kind of a super complicated strategy to kind of make the building and the house more energy efficient. We also looked at other opportunities, like we mentioned earlier in our conversation. This is a very steep site. We're trying not to do a lot of cut and fill, but we still want to make sure that we create those opportunities for outdoor spaces for our clients. So even though we're not doing a lot of cut and fill, we're not creating large expanses of flat outdoor areas. When you add it all up, when you add all these spaces up, it's about the same kind of square footage that you would have on a typical home. We started construction before the pandemic, and we took a little pause, like everybody, to try to figure things out, how to and can we work with and around this. And part of that experience was construction cost was escalating. There were significant delays with getting the products to the site, and also just making sure the construction team just making sure that everybody, the crews were being safe, making sure everybody was taken care of. So we had some minor adjustments during construction. We did have to maybe postpone a couple of ideas when it came to kind of interior finishes or kind of minor adjustments. And these ideas, these kind of ideas that we are talking about right now, so room for growth, are ideas that could have been implemented during the construction, but they didn't. And we had the ability to kind of postpone them, save a little bit of money, wait till things get, wait until we have a better handle of the situation, in this case, the pandemic, and then figure out if it can happen at a later date. So, yes, it did affect us, not in a significant way. The client did have to make the decision to spend a little bit more, increase the budget a little bit to adjust for the situation. But in general, we kind of move forward with the majority of the decisions that we had made during design. So I don't know if we talked about the deck, but this is another idea, just quickly. So we extended the foundation beams, and the idea was to just leave it like this. But if the clients, were looking for opportunities to create more outdoor spaces for them in a very steep site where we don't want to do any cut and fill. So extending the foundation beams was one idea that could be transformed into an actual kind of terrace off of the den at a later date. And this idea was without a lot of additional infrastructure. It was nothing more than a series of beams or rafters going from a joist going from one side of the foundation to the other, and then just a wood deck on top of that, and it's one and done. And then, of course, a few steps to take you to grade. And then we had a similar idea with the roof deck itself. The design itself was developed in a way so we have this kind of really deep parapet for the roof. It doesn't need to be that deep, but we made it that deep so it was so we had enough room to transform what it would just be a parapet into a guardrail itself at a later date when the clients were kind of ready to kind of move forward with this idea of the roof deck, which was one of the things that they wanted. And we had a conversation that we just didn't think this could happen at this point, but that is not a big problem if we, with kind of our strategy of just planning for the future and making sure that the house is ready to kind of receive these kind of new ideas or ideas that have been kind of postponed. So the roof deck.
Francisco,
Yes.
the pool area, it looks great. Diane was saying it's a nice segue between the interior and landscape. And they're wondering how big is that pool? And could you discuss the material choices at the pool area and the sunken patio? Unless you've got that coming up in another portion of the presentation.
Yeah, I think we're going to show the pool later, but I can just talk about that briefly. It's not a large pool. And frankly, I personally like the smaller pools, and they love it. So I believe it's about 8 feet wide by maybe 24 foot deep, or maybe a little bit longer. And then it just has like your typical depth of maybe like 4 feet on one side to 5 to 6 feet at the other end. And along the edge of the pool, there's a built-in bench. And in addition to that, we also have the pool the pool itself is kind of raised from the grade about 2 feet. So the edge of the pool coping also works as a kind of bench, a place where to kind of sit down and kind of transform the little kind of garden space next to the swimming pool into kind of more additional seating without having to add too much kind of furniture. And then the finishes, I think the coping is just Lueders limestone, a wood deck. I believe that specific deck is Ipe, and crushed granite for the small kind of terrace next to the swimming pool. I don't know why every time I see it, I feel like it's like, it reminds me of Italy for some reason. I don't know why, but it's one of my favorite spots outside. Some images of the roof deck. Again, this is just set up to receive the wood deck at a later day. I'm calling it a wood deck, but actually they ended up using tiles for this area. This is a project that our clients, they've lived in the house a little bit over 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. They didn't complete the roof deck when they got their CO. But at this point, they're kind of actively working on it themselves, just with those tiles. They order them, they're installing them, they're really close to finishing that. So that idea will be completed soon. And then here we have this is, by the way, we're getting really close to the end of it. I'll try to go through this quickly, but the last part of the presentation here will just be talking about window placing and natural light. This is something that is very important to us. When it came to kind of the face of the house, what we wanted to present to the neighborhood, we wanted to make sure that the house was friendly, but without necessarily compromising the privacy of our clients. So there's a lot of depth in the design of this elevation. We have just one section that has a big piece of, that has kind of a lot of glazing, but this doesn't show it here, but you'll see in the pictures that is actually shielded by a kind of grove of trees in front of that large windows. And then the entry door is kind of tucked behind one of the stone walls right there. And then of course, natural light. Here you can see kind of the play of light next to, as part of the entry sequence. Those are, we don't have a good word for it. We call them outdoor exterior skylights. Architects love to say that they've invented this and that. I've heard architects say that they invented the cantilevered vanity in a bathroom. I like to think that I invented skylights. This is something that we do that we try to incorporate into all our projects. Texas, especially Texas, you know, there's the Austin, Texas sun, And it's a lot of architects, I guess, describe it as the light as working with a material, and that is something that we absolutely subscribe to that idea. And we always look for opportunities of incorporating light and capturing natural light. And that was the idea behind the outdoor skylights that line the entry. And they're also in the swimming pool courtyard. They also frame really pretty views when you're sitting there just looking up. And then we have the master suite. I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of thank Western Windows and Doors. We use their product on our house. It's an amazing product. If you're an architect, you know exactly who they are. You love their doors and windows. They're great. They're aluminum. They're thin profile and super resilient. So here we have the master suite. We wanted to make sure that there was a direct connection with the view beyond, but of course we also have to deal with the reality of the master suite facing west and also facing the street. We set the master suite further back to create more kind of privacy for that particular space. And in addition, we looked at a number of different screen and shading solutions. I think this is a beautiful design. But it's not there just because it looks good. We looked at a lot of different profiles, a lot of different layouts, and we reviewed them all to see which one would provide the most shading to the indoor space, in this case, the master suite, but also would let you look out from the master bedroom. So if you're standing in the master bedroom, you're looking out straight out, you can see, that's fine. If you have your neighbor walking their door from the street, most of the time they're walking at an angle, it's very difficult to see. That was the idea behind that. Again, talking about lighting and windows, and we mentioned this before, we try to keep the windows on the second floor to a minimum in some places, and then the first level really kind of opens to the property itself. So that kind of courtyard that we are creating with the L shape of the building kind of right now here when it turns the corner. We also allowed kind of some framed views within the building. So there's kind of a section right there as you're going up the stairs. There's some big windows that kind of welcome you into the den. And that is we kind of extended the walls of the building to kind of give the clients an opportunity to turn that space almost into a little kind of landscape vignette that you can always look at as you're walking up the stairs into towards the den space.
I have another question from Kristen. What are the clients doing with with all the natural landscape in the drainage area? And I'm just going to let you know it's 12:30, but hopefully we can wrap up here soon.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of grasses, and we're using the retaining walls, and we also kind of have swells to direct the water away from the building and towards the kind of natural drainage of the site. When it comes to landscaping, there's still a lot of work ahead of us, but that's kind of where we are right now. Again, skylights, talked about that a little bit. It's always a great opportunity to play with light, to bring natural light to spaces that typically are kind of towards the center of a building, and sometimes windows just don't do the trick. Frankly, I think there's a lot of opportunities where a skylight, I'd rather have a skylight than a window looking at my neighbor. So you'll see kind of examples of that. So we have here our outdoor skylights, and this is the swimming pool courtyard with the bench in there in the swimming pool. And then here you start seeing some of the materials like the stucco and the fieldstone, which is a way to kind of, we wanted to make sure we had something, a a stone product that had a lot of personality and character. And just a few more images here. And that's that little meditation room that I was talking about. And we're getting really, really close to the end of this. So another few other images of the meditation room and the skylights as they're being constructed. And really the quality of light of the interior spaces is comparable to actually kind of the just being outside, which I think consider that one of the successes of this project. And skylight right there. I think you're just going to see it. Its final iteration. This is our bathroom. No windows. Beautiful skylight. Little glass coming back. Bathroom. No windows. Just a skylight next to the tub. Can you want to hang out there? I do. Go. Another rendering. This one is a Halloween rendering for you guys. Happy Halloween. And some images of the house. These are photographs that we took, so forgive the quality. I hope you still can see the type of space that we created, and you like it and you love it and you're excited about it as we are. The living room, kitchen with a little garage storage behind the backsplash. The den, talking about the den on the deck. This is how you get to the master suite.
Francisco, what did you say the stone siding was? And
it's a limestone. It's just a field limestone. It's used a lot in for land. Really, a lot of times you see it in landscaping, like just kind of a floor surface landscaping. You also see it a lot in kind of your mid-century architecture. Frankly, you see that a lot in mid-century architecture, which we respect and love and appreciate.
We got a lot of comments just saying how beautiful it was, and just like everybody really appreciated the sort of quality of the presentation and just thought it was lovely. Oh, sorry, one more. The thin gray siding is what I meant. What is that? What is the material of the thin gray siding?
The thin gray siding. Oh, cedar. That is just naughty red cedar.
Okay.
And we're gonna let it gray out. Yes.
Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.